So I'm Áine Homer, and you say that as in Áine, good Áine, or on your bike. And I am otherwise known as the Baby Reflux Lady. I am a world leading expert in holistic management of infant reflux. And that means I believe that infant reflux has a cause. And that when we find the root cause, we find the path to the right answer for the right child. In fact, I've looked at it, been working in this space for almost 10 years. And I've identified over 30 things where we can track and follow through the path of reflux. And when we identify it, like it brings resolution so quickly, sometimes within a few days, even faster with some clients. Others, it might be a few weeks, but it's a path of confidence knowing that parents aren't just guessing anymore. It's like clear action about things that are really going to help, rather than let's guess and try all these strategies to minimize the impact of reflux. My approach is let's find the cause and resolve it, so it's not an issue and we don't have to manage it anymore. I got into it because 12 and a bit years ago, I became a mom for the first time. 10 and a bit years ago, second time round, both children were officially diagnosed with colic, reflux. Well, one reflux is with silent reflux, multiple food allergies and intolerances, both with casework protein allergy, and then my youngest with nut allergy, which thankfully wasn't anaphylaxis, but it was still present over the course of a number of years. She also had a sulfite allergy, which is one of the hardest things on earth to manage because it also happens in response to natural sulfites and sulfur, for example, in eggs. So we had a really, really steep learning curve. And as a result of total lack of sleep, complete lack of answers or explanation, and what I only felt like complete invalidation everywhere I looked. You know, whenever I asked for help, it's, well, you're too anxious. Your anxiety is causing your baby's reflux. Your baby's fine. She's putting on weight. She's just crying. She's grumpy. You need to not hold her. You're making a rod for your own back by holding her all the time. I just felt totally unseen and unheard. And I refused to believe that my daughter was crying for no reason. And any parent of a baby with reflux will know that the cry of a baby in pain is the cry of a baby in pain. Like it gets us. And so I kept listening to her, but I wasn't able to solve anything for my eldest daughter till she was probably about 9 months when we started to see some improvements. She was about 18 months when she was fully clear of it. I learned a lot during that time. And then when my second daughter came along, I thought I had it nailed. I thought I knew what I was doing. And she came along to teach me there was a whole other realm side to reflux, that it was never caused by the one thing. And I then started to see that reflux itself is actually a symptom. It's not a disease, which is why it's so hard to diagnose. It's why it's so hard to identify. You know, we have these list of symptoms that some babies have and some babies don't. Well, that's because reflux itself is a symptom. And it always occurs with other symptoms. And then when we understand these, we sort of look at it like a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. We put all these together and we can see what's going on. So
I think that's the massive light bulb moment in itself, isn't it? That it's a symptom and part of other symptoms and not the core reason.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, it's like somebody looks in this window here beside me. They will see my office from one view. If somebody, it's a different view when you're in the office. You know, I can see what's down here in the radiator that somebody else outside looking in can't, but it's the same room. So when we choose a different viewpoint, we get to see different things. And I'm really, really passionate about explaining to parents what I think is going on. I don't ever want people to do things because Áine said so. I want them to do things because it makes sense for their child. And they're like, oh, that connects to that, connects to that. Oh, I see how these dots line up. Of course, I'm going to take that action. It's the next logical step. It also empowers parents to be able to make decisions on a daily basis, going, okay, I see this new feeding position. It's making a difference. Or my baby's telling me this. Trust what they see and then act on the feedback. So they're working with their child, not just blindly following the list of another blog that said, these are the 10 things you haven't yet tried for reflux.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the intro, and I'm so grateful to have you on here. It's the first time we've actually met, so I hope you're feeling kind of comfortable with speaking to me today. And I think we'll start going through the questions, and please add in anything else if that works for you too.
I will do.
So the first one was about changing milks. So that's something often, as a doula as well, I come across people saying, should I change the milk, or have I been recommended to change it? What would you say to that?
Unfortunately, I'm a bit like a broken record. It's take a step back. Let's find out if that's the right thing to do. And then if it is the right thing to do it. Yeah. But it's not, again, don't just randomly change the milks.
And that's what I think we see is like, it's just okay, we'll try that over, because it's easy to order on Amazon, right? So it becomes like let's do that first before we do anything else.
Yeah. And the thing is, the truth is, it's probably not the milk. It's going to be either something in the milk, or what so many people miss is how baby is drinking the milk. Like, it's not just the milk. It could be the bottle that they're using if it's a formula. It could be the position they're holding the milk. It could be how the milk is being prepared. It could be something in the milk. It could be something we're adding to the milk. It could be the volume of milk. Like, changing the milk. If baby is... So if a lot of babies unintentionally overfeed, okay, and what happens is they overfill their stomachs, and when we overfill their stomach, if we squeeze it, then regurgitation happens. But babies often ask for comfort. So if they get something coming up, they know instinctively that by swallowing something, they wash it back down. So what looks like they're trying to swallow, they're asking for something to push something down, ends up unintentionally being, I'm asking for more milk, because they know drinking milk soothes the throat. But then they end up in this cycle of overfeeding, and milk comes up, they ask for more to soothe the throat, they overfeed. And so we can get into these cycles. It's about being able to see what's going on first. And I literally, until last week, I was saying it takes us 90 minutes to go through this. I've now created what's called a reflux roadmap. It's £22. Fill out the symptoms, and it's got my brain in the background that goes, these are the things causing your baby's reflux. These are the things to do about it.
That's amazing. We'll link that under the video.
It's like my newest game tool, and I'm updating it all the time, because when we have a little bit of understanding and clarity, it's always said it might not be the milk. And I meet so many babies on like amino acid milks where they don't actually have an allergy. It's just the next thing to tick off the list in trying. These kids have typically been through 3, 4, 5 months of trying things. They're extremely stressed. Their parents are extremely stressed. Nobody in the house is sleeping. And then the milk makes it even worse. And not only that, not all milks are created equal. Unfortunately, amino acid milks, because of how they have to be made, they are right when a child has a severe cow's milk protein allergy. Don't take that away from them. But there's too many children on them because they unfortunately increase other risks. They have very, very high levels of protein. And if that's not supported correctly, baby can end up with too much protein over the first 12 months. However, if we understand what they're having, then we can manage that with their solids. And so they get the right amount of protein in that first 12 months, which sets them up for a healthy life. It's never one thing on its own. It's this combination of things and everything in baby's life that's going on at any one time.
Yeah, so when people have a baby who can't settle, or it's like unexplained crying because, they tried the feeding, the cuddles, the nappy and all the things, keeping them warm and things, but they're still crying. What would you say the first thing to do is in that case?
Fill out the symptoms tracker. Even the free symptoms tracker it's a list of like, there must be 150 things we look at. These are pieces of the puzzle. And I get so many parents messaging me going, I didn't realize the way they were breathing is connected to their reflux. Or I didn't realize, why are you asking about how well they're able to hold on to their dummy? I didn't know that was connected to the reflux. Or I didn't know that the color of their poo was connected to how they're drinking their milk. Everything, like literally 20 minutes, you can have an answer of what is going on and what to do about it. That brings a level of calm to the parent themselves. I mean, there's so many things. Probably the first thing for a parent is take a really deep breath. You know, it's that own nervous system regulation, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Every doula on earth knows this. But as parents with newborns, we forget it. Everything, all the hypnobirthing training goes out the window going, that's in the past. It's not in the past. Yeah. We need to regulate ourselves. You know, as you get to be the parent of an older child, you start to realize that, you know, your nervous system balance sets the tone for everybody else in the house.
Yeah,
and that, like, it's a hard weight to carry. I didn't realize that I was the one to set the tone in my house every morning, but I am. If I get up and I'm not going, my kids are very responsive. Going, like, okay, we get up and dance, and they're like, oh yeah, life is easy. I'm like, okay. And they're like, are you pretending today? I'm like, yeah, I can't, but I'm pretending. And they're like, it's fine, we'll do it now.
Yeah, but this is so true.
But it's our babies, our newborns are even more responsive to that.
And it's less obvious, isn't it? But it's there.
So breathing, and if you can't bring yourself to breathe, sing. Does the very same thing. Big deep inhale, long slow exhale. These are things that calm our parasympathetic nervous system, or turn on our parasympathetic system. Calm us. Our baby will be a bit calmer in response, and we start that cycle coming up. It doesn't change the real life worries, but it does change with how we think about them, how we process them, but also, and especially for breastfeeding parents, changes the adrenaline and cortisol circulating in our bodies, which again has a direct impact on that child's ability to settle as well. Like, I see so many babies who are tired and wired at 9 o'clock, like, I want to sleep. But because mom is so stressed at feeding time, they're not getting a dose of melatonin and oxytocin and all those other great hormones at night. They're getting adrenaline and cortisol.
And so particularly the night feeds, where those hormones are very much needed for replenishment, aren't they? For everyone.
And what I will say to moms is, if you're lucky enough to have a partner, lean on them. You know, let them support you, let them hold that space for you, so that you can go, okay, you've got me. Can you get me a cup of tea? Can you get me a glass of water? Can you do the things that
some fresh air?
All of these little things add up. But most importantly, like 20 minutes, you can have a plan that if you start following the plan, you will get the action. This isn't about throwing jelly at a wall and hoping something sticks. You know, it's clear, actionable things. And I do believe that every child could be reflux free within 6 weeks. Every single child on earth.
Wow, that's an amazing claim, and I completely trust you. In our research, to invite you onto the hub, it was just like, wow, we can't wait to talk about you more. And it is the stress and anxiety that it causes all round, isn't it? That it just feels like there needs to be more support in this area, and it doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah, and I will say, reflux can be complicated, but it's just learning another language. If you've got a dictionary or somebody who's a native speaker to support you, you get there faster. You know, I can learn to speak Irish. It's learning another language. It's learning your baby's language in terms of in the reflux filter. And when we learn it, it becomes so obvious. And I say this, having clients come back to me 6 months later going, right, stuff's gone haywire. We started on solids. We're doing this. It's not working. I don't want to go through it anymore. Can you just like bring up to speed on the next level? And then they go away. And I got an email last week from a couple whose baby is she's not a baby anymore. She's a proper toddler, nearly 2. And they're like, 2 calls in 2 years. They're like sorted. They've had they just got to a stage on the second call going, we're not going to muddle through anymore. Let's give Áine a call. An hour and a half. They got a plan, and 6 months later, they're like, yeah, that's great, which is lovely. It is lovely. But it's just knowing that we're not here to do this alone. You've got this pregnant hub because we're not here to do parenting alone.
Yeah.
And we can't possibly know everything.
learning a language actually is a really hard thing to do in postnatal recovery time and things, so you don't need to do that alone. Like you can get there quicker with people that can hold you on the way. We have someone on the hub who asked a question about buying Infocol. So it was on their shopping list basically ahead while they're pregnant, ahead of time for their baby, and they'd been given their list from a friend and on it was Infocol, and they were asking about that, so I thought I'd hand that one over to you to answer.
Again, Infocol is a tool, and sometimes it can be the right tool for the job. We need to know what job we're trying to solve with it. You know, if a baby has a casework protein allergy, Infocol is going to make them really bad. As I said, that's colic, getting mixed up. Infocol is smethicone. So what it does, I'm going to get these mixed up. We've got Infocol and gripe water. And I'm not going to say, each of them do a different job. One of them makes air bubbles in the stomach come together into a bigger bubble so that they can be burped up. And the other disperses the bubbles into smaller bubbles so they can be passed down into the gut. Okay, so that's the theory, is that they're here to move air out of the stomach. My question is, well, why is there so much air in the stomach in the first place? If we're not supposed to have too much air in our digestive system. It's why as adults we still have the ability to hiccup and to burp. And if you drink a can of soda really quickly, your body's like, I don't want that, get it out.
You know. And so is it the gripe water that makes it come this way and the Infocol
I'll be honest, I can't remember which one does.
Oh, fine. We'll find out, we'll put it on here.
One of them does. They do the opposite things. As a tool in the short term, that's fine if they work, and you'll only know which one will work for your baby if you try it. And it's not a guarantee that one or other will work either. What you got to be careful is not using it with something like Gaviscon, because Gaviscon forms a raft and pushes all the air down anyway. So we got to be careful about what can be mixed and not mixed as well.
And is it right that Gaviscon is prescribed by the doctor, or can you?
Yes,
I would think from experience
it should be prescribed. However, it is also available on the shelf in every supermarket.
Right.
And I have met parents through my practice who've like, oh, we've just picked up the Gaviscon because that's what you do for reflux. And unfortunately, they're giving what they don't know because they don't have any greater information. They've just been turned away from the doctors when they've asked for help. So they don't know there's an infant Gaviscon and an adult Gaviscon. And the adult Gaviscon has that aluminium alginate in it, which shouldn't, like, there should be no aluminium ever given to babies. It's so again, not everything is as it seems, which is why knowledge is so important. You know, I even actually have an antenatal class for anybody who's pregnant who wants to get ahead of the game, because depending on the cause of a baby's reflux, there are things that could be done during pregnancy to minimize the risk of some of them. We can never say, I've done these things, therefore my baby will not have reflux. We can't do that, but we can say we minimize the risk. You can also identify it relatively quickly, like within days or hours, and then go, right, I'm going to take this action. And so it doesn't need to be something that overshadows your memories. You know, like I pretty much blocked out the first 3 years of being a mom because
it's a roller coaster.
Didn't enjoy it. There were some dark days. But when it comes to whether we should use Infocol, if you're using it as a tool, but I don't believe your baby should be consuming that much air in the first place, there's a reason for that. Again, it could be oral function. So it could be things like tongue ties, lip ties, cheek ties, called buccal ties. It could be, if they're bottle fed, it could be how they're feeding from the bottle. It could be the bottle shape itself. It could be the flow of the bottle. It could be how the milk is being prepared. It could be nothing to do with feeding and how much crying a baby's doing. So, for example, if they're overstimulated, they have a big crying session. Every time a baby cries, they go, wah! And in that gulp, the diaphragm expands so much, it draws air in, and it invariably puts air into the stomach. So that can be another take. And I have met a baby who was prescribed on prescription medication for about 3 months, and the original cause of their reflux was overstimulation and crying. They never had true regurgitation caused by anything else. But when we addressed the overstimulation, that baby never needed any medication. So again, it's what's that root cause? Find that, and babies can, if they're not using a dummy correctly, can inhale air with that. So it's about getting specific, and this is what my symptoms tracker and reflux roadmap does. It asks about, how does your baby use these things? What are we doing? What's the behaviors while they're feeding? Sometimes they're really tense. A baby who's tense like this, if you scrunch up your shoulders and try and drink water, you're not going to be able to swallow properly. So therefore, a baby who's really tense is going to have trouble swallowing. So what's the source of that tension? It's really about understanding how the human body works. A baby's body is still a human body. So their muscles are as equally connected as ours. If you're like that, you're going, okay, right. Equally, an adult can't swallow if we've got our head like that. So if we feed a baby with their head looking up, they can't swallow properly either. So again, it's a lot of looking at the mechanics, the physiology, as well as the emotional side of things, because that causes a physical impact on the inside as well with our hormones. So
the antenatal education sounds incredible too, so we'll make sure we link that. And the element of kind of a newborn baby, so when can people start really thinking about, obviously they haven't done the antenatal education and they've got a really tiny baby, is there an element of that baby needing to develop a bit more first, or how would you address that?
No, and I say that from personal experience, because hindsight is 20/20 vision. From the very moment my eldest daughter was born, she was struggling really badly. And when we were in the hospital, she could not sleep. She could not sleep unless she was on me. And I kept being told to put her back in the cot. And every time I put her back in the cot, about 5 seconds later, she was awake, screaming. So I took her up. She would only sleep upright on me. Like, she literally refused to lie down. And again, I was told, this is normal. Leave her, let her settle. She'll eventually cry herself to sleep, which she didn't. And my heart was breaking and I was exhausted. So looking back, I could see now what was going on for her. But if, as a parent, you think your baby is a little bit more unsettled than they should be, then just ask some questions. Like, if you fill out my online symptoms tracker, even you get the PDF version, if a child has 3 or 4 of the symptoms on the list and has them frequently or regularly, like not hiccups once a week, that's kind of okay, whatever. But if your baby's hiccuping 4 or 5 times a day, then that's not a normal practice. If you were an adult, I certainly wouldn't be happy having hiccups every day.
No.
I have mine 7 times a day. So tune in and go, if your child, or if you had your baby's symptoms, difficulty sleeping, inability to lie still because your legs are going all the time, not liking to lie down, would you be happy going, oh, it'll pass? And it might pass in 12-ish months. Like, would you be happy? As humans, we should be comfortable inside our body. I'm not aware I have a little toe until the moment I stub up on the corner of the door. And then my entire world closes in and everything is about my little toe. Yeah. The house could be on fire around me, but my little toe's going, oi, focus here. So for a baby who's in constant discomfort, their focus is inwards. They do not want to engage in the world around them. They can't, because everything is calling them in. We're designed to be in these bodies looking out, navigating the world around us. And we can only do that when our physical body is comfortable and not calling on us all the time. So
it's about responding when you can see.
Yeah, and trusting yourself above any other human on this earth. As a parent, you are the world's leading expert in your child, period. It doesn't matter how complicated their case is. And I have dealt with kids who are born with congenital heart defects or things like esophageal atresia, where their esophagus is not connected to the stomach at birth. These parents still remain the world's leading expert in their child. And those who I've worked with, they consult me about the reflux. They consult their pediatricians about the disease, going, you know more about that, but they interpret the information for their child and create that change. And if we taught every single parent to trust themselves first, we'd have a lot happier children in the world, I do think.
Yeah, and it's particularly with first-time parents, you know, people who've been on a journey, perhaps quite a medicalized journey. So I do see a lot of people struggling to trust themselves. So I think that's a lovely message, a really important one. Unfortunately to end on, because I feel like I could talk to you all day, but we try and keep them to half an hour. But I must say, if you'd be happy to come back on at some point,
Anytime.
I'm sure people will see this on the hub and then be very keen to talk to you. But as I say, I will add the details of everything you've mentioned below the video so that people can access that easily.
Perfect. I'll send them over to you, Miliana. Well, lovely to meet you.
Yeah, it was really lovely to meet you, and we'll keep in touch.
Absolutely. There's so many kids and parents who don't need to take this journey quite so long.
No, absolutely. And yeah, thank you for sharing your experiences as well with us.
No problem.
I'll speak to you soon.
See you again. Bye-bye.
Bye.